Welcome to Christ Table. My name is Kevin Young. I have the privilege of serving here as lead clergy. If you'd like more information about who we are or what we do, you can visit the URL that's right there, www.christstable.today. We'd encourage you to sign up for our email list there so that you know everything that's happening around here at Christ Table. In particular, I want to make sure that you are aware that we have a resource that goes along with this study at go.christstable.today/divinecomedy. There at that URL, there is a PDF download of a study guide to help you navigate some of the background contextual information for every single one of these days of the study, as well as some reflection questions to help you maybe reflect on how you might apply some of this more deeply to you or to the community and world surrounding you. If you would like a printed copy of that, we do offer those. All you need to do at the URL is click on the button there that says get the box. And I've actually got one right here, a box that includes both that printed curriculum as well as other resources to help you through this study. We'd love to get that to you. All you got to do is click on the button that's right there at go.christstable.today/divinecomedy. Though the PDF is completely there for free for you to download without you didn't put in your email address or anything there. So it's absolutely free. We'd love to just give that to you as our gift to you here at Christ Table. One other thing that I want to make sure that you're aware of, this book, Reconstruct Your Faith. If you are disconnected, disillusioned, done with the church, with Christianity, struggling with your faith, where to go if you even want to continue on that path of faith, this book is a great resource for you in making a decision whether or not you want to reconstruct your faith. You can get more information about that by visiting the URL that's right there, drkevinyoung.com. So we are in this study for 28 days called Divine Comedy, where we're looking at the wit, the wisdom, the sarcasm, the humor of Jesus. And there is a lot of it because a lot is lost in translation. And a lot of it really requires us to have an understanding of Hebrew as well, and some of the conversations that are happening culturally in society in those days. And most of us just don't have that. So we're trying to kind of give a bit of a behind the scenes look at maybe what may be going on in these passages and how the original hearers would have heard them. Today, we're going to be talking about salty disciples from Matthew. Nope, we're actually in Mark, hearing from Jesus in chapter 9, verses 49 through 51. 49 and 50. So we'll begin just by jumping right straight into that text, Mark 9, 49 through 50. For everyone will be tested with fire, Jesus says. Salt is good for seasoning, but if it loses its flavor, how do you make it salty again? You must have the qualities of salt among yourselves and live in peace with each other. So it's difficult for us to kind of get behind the scenes and understand all the nuances of everything that Jesus is saying here, because he's bringing a whole lot of his teachings together here in order to really talk about what it means to follow him, to be committed to one's faith. And so he says all of us are going to enter those moments where it feels as though we are under fire, or where we're being tested by fire in order to prove our mettle, to prove whether or not we're actually as strong as we think we are or we say we are. Then he backs off from that and uses salt as a metaphor, something that everybody would have been familiar with, because as prevalent as salt is today in ancient cultures or in cultures without electric, salt is an extremely important tool that they will utilize. And it also had become historically in the Jewish faith something that was used metaphorically as well. Salt is good for seasoning, is good for making things taste good. I can remember one of the first meals that I had with my in-laws. I didn't see a salt shaker on the table. And growing up in my house, rural Midwestern America, salt was everywhere. There was always at least 3 or 4 salt shakers close to being at arm's reach, and had to go in the cabinet. My mother-in-law did find a salt shaker up on the top shelf, put back, because nothing got salted. It wasn't a part of their culture to season things, and I was the odd person out for doing that. So here, though salt was used in that culture for seasoning, But what good is it for seasoning if it loses its flavor? How are you going to make salt that's lost its flavor salty again? It's lost its purpose. It's lost its usefulness. You might as well just throw it away if the salt is used for seasoning and it no longer adds any benefit. You're wasting time. It's useless. Then Jesus pivots essentially and says, you must have the qualities of salt among yourselves and live in peace with each other. So qualities of salt is salt makes things better, right? Salt brings out the best flavors in something. That's why I love salt. That's why we utilize salt, is it enhances, it increases the best flavors. It maximizes those flavors whenever salt is included in it. Jesus is saying whenever you are included in a place or in a people or in a group, you should be making those things better. If you're not, then what purpose do you have? Why are you there? So conflict, live in peace with each other. It seems as though that here in what Jesus is speaking about, one of the primary things that followers of Jesus are able to do if they are worth their seasoning is to bring peace to any environment or any group that they are in. So I referenced that salt was something that was a common conversation or metaphor in Jewish culture that goes all the way back into the Talmud, even as far back as in Leviticus in the Hebrew text. Season all your grain offerings with salt to remind you of God's eternal covenant. Never forget to add salt to your grain offerings, because it was a reminder then to Jewish people of God's eternal involvement with them. That not only was God asking them to season the world around them with their positive presence, but also that God was involved with them in the same way, that God was involved with them consistently and constantly in bringing something positive to them. That was God's covenant, that he would give them blessings simply because of that agreement that he had with them. So we see salt utilized in this rabbinical literature in ways in which it represents a covenant or an agreement with the people, where it's used for preservation of things, but also where it is used in the midst of sacrifice. And a grain offering was a sacrifice that pointed to a covenant. So what's happening here essentially is that Jesus is reminding people to stay salty. You might remember that "Stay Thirsty, My Friends," that Dosiqui commercials, where the most interesting man in the world, I think they called him, would say something very interesting in a very incredible, engaging accent. And then at the end, his tagline was, "Stay thirsty, my friends." Well, Jesus is essentially encouraging his followers in a similar way to stay salty, my friends, to stay committed, to stay seasoned, to stay worth the thing in which you have been placed. If salt isn't salty, then it's worthless in all the environments and all the places and all the relationships and all the communities, right? If we're not salty, if we're not making things better, bringing out the best, making things more peaceful, making things more enjoyable, then we're probably not doing our jobs. And so people would have laughed. They would have understood this as it's kind of a humorous metaphor for Jesus. Whenever the most interesting man in the world makes the statement, "Stay thirsty, my friends," that turn of words, that turn of phrase, or using something in a way in which we don't normally think of it. This is what Jesus is doing here. Whenever he says, "Stay salty," make sure that you stay well seasoned, that you bring the best taste to all of the places that you are in. Right? Well, if you'd like more information about this study or to download that curriculum, go ahead and visit the URL right there, go.christstable.today/divinecomedy. It's been good to be with you today. Looking forward to being with you tomorrow as we continue on in the series. Until that time.